the more you give out, the more you want, the more people see that you're willing to share with them, the more people are going to, they're going to want to work with you, because they can see from your extensive knowledge that you can actually, you know what you're talking about, and you are the person who can help them. So yeah, my social media is definitely something I now take very seriously.
It's not about you, it's about,
about them. Yeah.
them. And I think that is probably one of the most important things that's contributed to, I think, your success on social media so far. I was always, and I still am, impressed with the rate of organic growth that you've achieved, because, you were getting hundreds and I think a couple of thousand of followers already.
Yeah.
And that's just through creating content where you put your audience first. Welcome back to another episode of the Social CEO podcast. I'm your host, Dani Barker, and in this episode, I'm going to be speaking to Leanne Astbury. Leanne is a cognitive behavioural therapist and coach. Leanne was actually a client of mine at the very beginning of her online business journey. We worked together to strategise her social media content and bring it to life for the launch of her first membership. We're going to talk about Leanne's experience with online entrepreneurship so far, the key lessons that she's learned along the way, and some of the strategies that have contributed to her success. So stay tuned, and don't forget, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to take a screenshot and share it on Instagram stories. You can tag me at DaniBarker_media, that's DANI for Dani, and you can tag Leanne at mindyourfuture.co.uk. It must be, we're recording this in the end of July 2021, and it must be maybe just past your first business anniversary for your online business.
It is. June is when I started to set up I contacted you for the branding, and then July is when my CBT Club opened the door for the first time. So we are actually celebrating our first birthday this month. Yeah.
Love it. So yeah, happy business birthday. What a way to start.
Thank you.
So I wanted to talk about, why was 2020 the time for you to start that online business? Because you'd been an in-person business for so long, what was your thinking behind that?
Well, as you just mentioned, I was in private practice, wasn't I, as a therapist. And as much as I always loved working in private practice, there was always a part of me that didn't feel comfortable just being able to help people who could afford private therapy, because I wanted to be able to help those that couldn't. They were on long waiting lists and were really struggling. And even before the pandemic hit, I wanted to be able to find a way to do that. And then obviously pandemic hit, lockdown happened, my business was shut because my wellbeing centre that I'm based at is above a sports shop. So the shop was closed, and obviously we couldn't see clients. So I was kind of, for the first time ever, I was forced to just stop and slow down. And I just thought, now is the perfect time to put into action what I want to put into action. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to do it. All I knew is I wanted to be able to educate more people, empower more people, and support more people. So from that came the idea of the CBT Hub. And then it was born, really. The idea was born. I came up with the idea of how I wanted to do it, reached out for help from the right people, and then it was opened the doors for its first time in July last year.
Amazing. What a 12 months it's been. That was one of my sort of bounce off questions. I was going to say, is this an idea that you had before the pandemic, and it 2020 was the time to make it happen, or was the idea because of the pandemic as well?
Yeah, I would say the idea was there, that I wanted to find a way to help more people, but the idea of how I was going to do it didn't really come until the pandemic and the lockdown, and I started doing my research and became more aware of what the online world looks like and how I could fit into that. And the first time I heard of membership sites as well. I'd never even, obviously you hear of membership sites like Netflix and things like that, but I'd never really heard of a membership site that could help people like I do. So the idea was there, but it wasn't until 2020 when I sat down and thought about how that I actually came up with that idea. So yeah,
no, absolutely. I think that it was a really Challenging, but I think exciting year for everybody. It made a lot of new things possible in spite of the hardships we faced. And it's amazing to see, like, you know, how well that you did. I know, like, lots of people say, oh, I've got this idea, or, you know, I'm going to make this happen, but they don't go ahead and do it. And I think that you're just like a shining example of somebody that had the idea and they went and did it. And now here you are a year later. And
Yeah,
it's
I'd like to think I would have done it either. I would have found a way to do it eventually, but it probably would have just taken me a lot longer. Because how often do we human beings get, 3 months to sit at home and just focus on ourselves and, developing a project? It just doesn't happen because life is just so busy and every day rolls into another day. So yeah, even though the pandemic was obviously a very difficult time for a lot of companies, I think it has changed the way they're going to work forever. And, and I do think that that's going to be kinder to the environment in the future as well, because, a lot of people are giving up offices, which means staff are not having to travel. And, the online world is growing massively since then. Yeah. And I'm part of it, thankfully.
Definitely, for sure. Like, how has running your online business changed your day to day? Like, do you find yourself commuting to your practice as much? How's that changed?
Well, before the pandemic, I was in private practice 5 days a week, and now I'm in private practice 1 day a week in the actual wellbeing centre. I do have online face-to-face clients because still some people are still quite anxious about coming and seeing me face-to-face because of the coronavirus, which I completely understand. And it wasn't actually until the pandemic hit that I started offering one-to-one therapy online. All my therapy was face-to-face. I'd never even considered doing online therapy. I wasn't even sure how it would work, but you get exactly the same results. I find it, I've not had a problem with it. None of my clients have had a problem with it. So yeah, it just means now I'm only in the wellbeing centre 1 day a week, and I'm at home doing online therapy and working on my membership site the rest of the week. Whether that's going to change when things start to get back to normal and I might increase my days down there, I'm not sure at the moment. I'm not really needing to at the moment because everything's working just fine. So working the 1 day is working well for me.
No, that's really good to hear. And like, do you feel like, a lot of people start online businesses to achieve freedom? Like, do you feel like you've achieved a happier, like, kind of balance between all of the different things that you're doing?
Yeah, I've still got a long way to go with that because obviously I'm still only a year into it and I'm still trying to grow my membership site. But definitely I've got more freedom at the moment than what I had, because like I said, I was working Monday to Friday. Some days I was doing like 9 till 7, whereas now I'm only having to leave the house that 1 day a week, and I'm managing my online hours so much better. So I'm finishing a lot earlier and getting to spend more time with my family. But my long-term aim is to, help more people, do a lot more group work, build my membership site and reduce the one-to-ones. So that, yes, I will absolutely have more freedom, but also have the opportunity to help so many more people, which is what I love about the online world, really.
Yeah, without a doubt, it is just completely different. And I feel like, you can still have that because, the nature of therapy is it's such a personal service. And moving online doesn't mean you have to lose that sort of, like level of service.
No.
So it's really like great to see how you're, doing lots of different things with your brand. You are doing some online one-to-ones, you're doing your membership, and there's, just so much potential for growth there.
Absolutely. Yeah. A big part of my business, even though I am the therapist, a lot of what I do, I want to educate people, because cognitive behavioral therapy, which is therapy that I do, the techniques that we use in CBT can, people can use them for themselves and they can be very life-changing. So I want to educate people more about how their minds work and how these techniques can help them. And that's the goal of my membership site, and also my social media, and also any future group workshops that I do as well, because knowledge is power.
It is. It always is. Knowledge and implementation.
Absolutely.
No point knowing it if you're not doing it.
Exactly. Give them the knowledge, show them how to take the action. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I wanted to dig into, a little bit behind, like, what is it like to actually launch a membership and an online business in general? Because I feel like, for people that haven't launched yet or are in the process of launching, I feel like maybe there's some misconceptions about the kind of work that you need to put in, or some of the ins and outs, because it sounds easy to say, oh, I'll just launch a membership. But as you've just said, you're a year in and there's still so much that you want to do. So I just sort of wanted to like dive into that really, and kick things off by asking, what was your approach to social media before launching your online business? And what about that changed as you were like preparing to launch? Because I know that's when we started working together, but prior to that, what was that like?
Prior to me starting an online business, I would say my social media was very low down in my priorities. I was just every now and again kind of sharing a quote that I had pinched off the internet, and put very little time into it. I wanted to have a social media presence because every business kind of needed to, but I wouldn't say that I put much thought into it, or it was very low down on my priorities. And then obviously going to the online business, I started to take social media so much more seriously, and that's why I got in touch with you. I decided to rebrand based on kind of where I saw my business going. And obviously you helped me with that, and I started to see it as being actually quite high up on my list of priorities rather than very low down, because I wanted to use that platform to educate people. So my social media is very educational. It gives tips and educates people on mental health. I wanted it to empower people. So I share some of my own transformational stories and client testimonials. And I want it to support people. So I do obviously offer support for people, invite them to different things that I do. I'm doing a webinar soon and inviting people to that. So my approach to it was very different, as in I now know what I want my social media to achieve. I want it to get people to know me, like me, trust me, know that I can help them. But also, even if people don't want to work with me, I want them to visit my page and be able to, get a tip or leave my page understanding something that they didn't understand before. So I would say my social media now is extremely important to me in comparison to my mindset towards it before. But because I wasn't an online business, I don't think we really, if you're not online, the social media platform doesn't seem, well, for me, I talk from obviously my own experience, it just didn't seem like it was something I needed to prioritize, but that's not true anymore. So yeah. But with regards to your question about launching, obviously, when you first come into online work, the word launch is no idea what it means. I had no idea what it meant. There is a lot to learn and a lot to understand. But once you have done the work and you've delivered, you've done the launch and you keep repeating it, and you can kind of use the same things that you used in the first launch, but obviously tweaking it to fit your, to learn from the last one what you want to improve on and any feedback that you got. But once you've done the initial hard work and you understand what a launch involves, it gets easier and easier and easier. That would be my, and it gets less and less scary. Because the first launch I did, it was a live 4-day Facebook boot camp. Never done one before. It was nerve-wracking, but it went really well. And then the second time was just so much less nerve-wracking. And this time I'm doing a webinar, and I'm really excited about doing the webinar. So, I think confidence grows with each launch, and it gets less and less scary. So I wouldn't be put off by it, but there is a lot to learn, without a doubt.
You touched on my two most important, social media concepts. It's not even a strategy, because it's just not like complicated. You need to be intentional. So like you said, when you had the idea for your online business, your approach to social media became intentional.
Yeah.
You can't get results from your social media if you haven't got a clear idea of where it is that you want to go.
Absolutely.
And then the second thing that you did was immediately made it about, your ideal clients, customers, members, and really created content for them. Your platform is an educational place for everybody to go.
Yeah.
Whereas it's not about you, it's about,
About them. Yeah.
them. And I think that is probably one of the most important things that's contributed to, I think, your success on social media so far. I was always, and I still am, impressed with the rate of organic growth that you've achieved, because, you were getting hundreds and I think a couple of thousand of followers already.
Yeah.
And that's just through creating content where you put your audience first.
Yeah.
And that is your priority. And social media doesn't need to be any more complicated than that,
No, it's just enjoying what you're putting out there as well. Absolutely. When I decide to do a post, I just think to myself, would I want to read this? Would I find this interesting? And if the answer is yes, then I put it out there. But also what I would say is, don't worry about giving too much away free as well, because I hear a lot of people say that all this information we give out on social media, it's, we're giving it out free. But the more you give out, the more you want, the more people see that you're willing to share with them, the more people are going to, they're going to want to work with you, because they can see from your extensive knowledge that you can actually, you know what you're talking about, and you are the person who can help them. So yeah, my social media is definitely something I now take very seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge trust builder too. Like, why would I want to choose a therapist that's super secret about like what they do? No, I'm going to come to Leanne because Leanne openly shares advice and tips.
Yeah.
And, that's the kind of open and friendly kind of person that I want to work with.
And sharing your own story as well. I think that's really important. I do share a lot about my own story on social media. And I think that for a lot of therapists, there is a bit of worry about how much you do share about your own story. But I think it's important that we do share. If we've been through difficult times ourselves, people need to know that. It makes us more relatable. It makes them feel even more understood because we've been where they are now. So I'm very open and honest about my own story, and I'm happy to share, obviously confidentially, I share testimonials from clients and any stories with regards to transformations that clients have made. Because again, it's really important. People need to know that you are the right person who can help them.
Exactly. It is sensitive information in some cases, but there are ways to go about it so that it's shared in a way that's helpful for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really important. So, flashing back to this launch, if you could go back to when you launched first time round, would you change anything about what you did?
Probably not to stress out so much and not to over worry it. But with regards to change how it went, no, because everything that I did, I learned from things that didn't go well. I learned from the feedback I got. And I think we do have to make mistakes to learn from mistakes. So yes, it wasn't perfect. It was never going to be perfect. It was my first ever launch. But from that, I learned how to then make my next launch even better. But I think it's just for me I think I would have just go back and say to myself, Leanne, it's okay. It's going to be fine. You know what you're doing. You can help these people. And I think actually a bit of advice is not to make it about you. See, I was getting quite worried and stressed during my first launch. And then afterwards, I did think to myself, that was me making it about me. I was worried about me getting it wrong, me saying the wrong thing, me, what people would think about me. And that's not how you're supposed to look at this. And that's something else I've learned in the last 12 months, that it's not about me. It's about them, the people who I'm helping. And if you approach every single launch with that mindset that it's not about you, it's about them, it will take away that worry, it'll take away that fear, because deep down that you can help these people, otherwise you wouldn't be doing this. So that mindset shift has really helped me moving forward, that it's not about me. It's not about what I look like. It's not about what I sound like. It's about me helping these people and what I've got to say. And what I've got to say can help them, and they need to hear it. So that's what we need. That's the mindset we need to have.
That's a huge mindset shift. I love that. Like, I want to like post this video like everywhere. That's amazing. And, you know, I think another thing that you have done so well is that you had the concept for your membership, you launched it, and then you went ahead and you launched it again. And your focus is still on, let's grow this membership, let's make this membership amazing. I feel like one of the pitfalls that some new online entrepreneurs make, and even like, you know, entrepreneurs that have been in this for a long time, they jump around too many ideas. I'm going to launch a membership this month, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do an ebook, and then I'm going to do all of these hundreds of different things. And, you know, that's one of the great things about online business. There are a lot of things that you can do and a lot of different ways that you can help people, but your focus is all in one place. And that's why it's growing. Your membership is growing because you're focusing on it. Yeah. And, you know, every single launch that you do is a bit different, a bit better, a bit different, a bit better.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's what it's about. You know, I'm a huge believer in, I mean, this totally didn't used to be me. I used to be the one that was doing like loads of different things at once. But, you know, just keeping it minimal. Like, why do you need 10 different things? Let's just do one thing and do it really, really well.
Yeah.
So
I totally agree. My goal is to do more in the future, but until my membership site's where I want it to be, I'm, you know, them things are on hold. I want to write a book. I want to do some like group workshops and, you know, I've got loads of ideas of things that I want to do. But yeah, you're right. If I start writing a book now, that's going to take me away from growing my membership site, because you know, plus I've got my one-to-one clients that I work with as well. So I already kind of, you know, struggle sometimes with balancing the two membership site and one-to-one clients, but they're both really important part of my business. So you know, I'm each day I get that balance even better for me. But yeah, you're totally right. You've got to focus on that one thing. And coming back to your previous question, actually, that you said, is there anything from your first launch that you would change? There is actually. So one thing that I didn't do in my first launch is that, I suppose it's because it was quite exciting that I'd started this membership site. I didn't put the money that I was bringing in from the membership site, I didn't reinvest it back into my membership site, as in like, and I've learned now that when you do a launch, the best thing to do is then reinvest the money you get from that into your next launch, and then you reinvest the money from that into your next launch. I made the error during my first launch of not doing that, which then kind of did hinder my second launch. So my advice to anybody who's launching is to do that. You know, take that, don't see it as being, oh, this is extra money we have, which is what I did. It's saying, right, I'm going to reinvest that. It's money I'm not used to having anyway. I'm going to reinvest it to my next launch, and then and that's how it will grow. So each time your pot of money will grow, and you'll be able to reach more people, which means you're helping more people, and in turn your membership site or whatever business it is will grow. Yeah, that would be a tip of mine.
Looking at it as a long-term project than let's get rich next week scheme.
Yeah. You've got to be willing to do the work with nothing back in return. But it's the same with any business. Even, you know, if you were to set up a cafe, you'd have to put a lot of money into the cafe before you started to see a return in your money. And, you know, I think with it being online, because obviously the expenses are so much lower than what they are with something like a cafe, it's easy to think that, oh, this money's, you know, this money's there for me, but it's not. You've got to reinvest it. So that's my biggest tip to anyone is reinvest it. Keep reinvesting until till your business has grown to where you want it to be.
It's a really helpful insight. And, you know, like when you say reinvest, like what kind of things are you reinvesting into?
The marketing.
Yeah.
So with a launch, you need to obviously do quite a lot of marketing to get to people to know about your launch in the first place. So every launch you do, if you reinvest the money from your membership site into the next launch, and then you do the same with you'll get more people in your second launch. So let's say you take 50 people into your membership site the first time, you reinvest that money that you've made for them a few months into your next launch, which hopefully will then get you, let's say, 75 the next time. Then you reinvest that, and then the next time it will increase. Whereas if you don't reinvest the money, then you're always going to kind of stay at, obviously depending on your financial situation, but you're always going to stay at just getting the similar amount of members in each time. And the idea is to grow and grow and grow, isn't it? So that would be that's the one thing I've learned anyway, that's the mistake I made.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense though, because you want to be reaching more and more people every time.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
The most logical sense to actually have that revenue is, keeping it all in one pot rather than thinking, oh, I've got to pull my marketing budget out of my own pocket or out of somewhere else. And I feel like that would probably make the launch feel a lot more, I'd feel smoother, feel a little bit more energetic, because if you feel like, oh, I want to launch, but I've got to dig this marketing budget out.
Exactly.
It's going to reduce your energy.
The first time I had to save up the marketing budget, and I spent all that marketing budget, which was, well worth spending because it opened me membership site and welcomed the first ever members in. But had I not made that mistake and kept the money I made for my second launch, I would have been able to do a much bigger second launch than what I actually did. So yeah, just something that was just a tip I would share, one regret I have. But we all make mistakes. I was new to it, and I was excited that I had this extra income, and wasn't really thinking with my business head on. But that's another thing that I keep I'm getting better because I'm a therapist. Even though I'm in private practice and I've had a business for quite a while, I don't see myself as a business person. I'm a therapist first, businesswoman second, but I'm having to really kind of change that and say, right, you're a business. You're not just a therapist. You're a business. You've got to start to think more business minded. And I definitely am getting better, but I've still got a long way to go. But it's, these things can take years and years and years. And can you ever sit back and say, I know everything? I don't think you ever can you? Always, even, entrepreneurs who are earning millions and millions, they still don't know everything. So, and no, it's exactly. Enjoying the journey, isn't it? Enjoying the journey.
That's it. When I think of this, I think of Richard Branson. Do you think Richard Branson, whatever age he's running around at, do you ever think he sits down and goes, oh, I'm done now?
Yeah, I'm done now. No, there's nothing else I need to know. Yeah, never.
No, he flew himself to space last week because he wanted to.
I know he did, didn't he? It's amazing. I saw that. Yeah, he's a guy who's done well for himself.
Exactly. This is about we're talking years, we're talking decades, business is huge and it's not supposed to take you a few weeks or a few months, No,
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. How has having a business coach, I know you worked with me closely on branding and content. I know you had a business coach at the same time, but how was working with experts, other people to mentor you? How did that help you launch, and sort of what effect has that had, over the last 12 months, do you feel, to get that business head switched on?
I can honestly say without the help of coaches, I would not be where I am today. I was a therapist in private practice. I had no clue about, social media. I was just screenshotting quotes and posting them. I had no clue about branding. I had no clue about, how to build a membership site. I had no clue about launching. I had no clue about how to do email campaigns. I was coming in from absolutely no knowledge whatsoever. So I wouldn't be where I am now had I not had coaches. And that is one biggest bit of advice that I would say to anybody is, don't try and do it on your own. I could have probably, through the pandemic, sat here and thought, I'm going to learn how to do branding. I'm going to learn how to build a membership site. I'm going to learn how to, set up email campaigns. But I would probably now, a year later, still not even have launched a membership site because it would have taken me so much time to learn all of that. And that is not where my strengths are. That's something else I'm definitely learning, is that if I'm not good at something, I'm not going to force it. I'm going to get other people to help me to do it and spend my time on the things I know that I'm good at and things that I enjoy doing. Because having a business is, it's supposed to be enjoyable. And if you're sat there thinking, oh, I've got to do all this today, and I've got to do that today, and that's not how it should be. So don't be afraid to, ask for help and reach out to other people. Coaches are invaluable. You learn so much from them, so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a trade, like everything is a trade-off. If you want to sit and educate yourself, then by all means go ahead. There's so much information about starting a business online, but do you have the time to sit and go through it all? I sort of think back to 5 years ago where I was at when I started my first business. I was in my first year at university. I was very fortunate that I didn't need to have a full-time job, that I did have plenty of study time to put into these kind of things. And, that was okay for me to teach myself initially.
Yeah.
But then as you evolve, your time becomes more and more valuable to a point where it does make sense to pay X hundred or X thousand to work with somebody that can get you where you want to go in a much shorter space of time, because
much shorter space of time. You can knock years off it. Working with a coach could knock years off having to teach yourself. Obviously, depending on people's financial situations, like you say, there is a lot of support online, YouTube videos and things you can get for free. But the support you pay for, you get a lot more from. That's because it's very focused on you and your business specifically. And invaluable. I wouldn't be where I am today without coaches.
Exactly. It kind of ties into the whole concept of what we post to social media as well. Like you said, don't worry about giving away information and advice in your social media posts. Yeah. And one of the reasons that is because your actual service that people pay for has got so much more to it. It's personal, it's more in depth, but also there's a commitment factor. I could sit and read all of your Instagram posts from the last 12 months and it would be amazing, but there's nothing tying me to actually taking action on that. So if you invest in a coach or a mentor, you're like, right, I have money on the line. If my coach says that I've got to do this, I'm going to go and I'm going to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. You will. If you pay somebody, you're more likely to take action because you've handed over the money. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah. And like you said, every single launch you do, you reinvest. It's a bigger marketing budget. But as well, another thing to think about is, could you hire somebody new? Could you hire a new coach or a new mentor? You could say, oh, my last launch was great, but actually I think I need help with this specific part. Maybe I need a Facebook ads mentor, or maybe I need this type of mentor. And you can start breaking it down and getting really specific people on board.
Oh, that's something else I have invested in, actually. I've worked with 2 coaches and I've done a membership course with Stu McLaren, who's the membership expert online. You've probably heard of him. So I invested in that. So I am investing my money back into helping myself to become better at this, because the better I become, the more people I can help, and the more effective my help is going to be.
That's exactly it. At the end of the day, it all comes down to that. Mm-hmm. If you want to elevate your business to the next level, you need to be willing to reinvest at a higher level. Yeah. And the whole reason we do it is to go out and make more of an impact on more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is what it's all about. The
aim of the game. The more my membership site grows, the more people I'm helping, and the more freedom I get. And the more freedom I get, the more people I get to help, because it means I get more time to put into helping more people. And obviously my family then get to, we get to benefit from that because we get more time together. So it's just a win-win situation for everybody, for you, the online person with the business, and those people who you're able to help.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That is exactly it. On that note, I think we're going to wrap this episode up. It has been a pleasure speaking with you, Leanne. I know it's been a while.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's been really, really amazing to see, how your online business has grown over the last 12 months.
Thank you.
And I want to make sure that after this episode, everybody can come and find you. Like, what is the best place to connect with you online?
I'm on Instagram at mindyourfuture.co.uk, or I can be found on Facebook at Leanne, Mind Your Future with Leanne, or my website is mindyourfuture.co.uk. So there's a few different ways you can, connect. Come follow me on Instagram or Facebook, and, you can see some of the posts that I do share.
Yeah. Amazing. All of those links will be in the description below. So
thank you very much, Dani.
Really, really nice to talk to you.
And you. Take care.
Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you found this episode valuable. And if you did, make sure that you're subscribed on your favourite podcast player. We're on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.